Good evening, folks. Can you hear me out there? Welcome back to Clown World. It's Friday night. If you can hear me out in the chat, give me a mic check. Let me know that we're ready, guys. We'll get it popping. Alright, it's 8:30, folks. I'm going to dive on in. And I am your host with the honks, Jason Bruce. We're going to get Honk in here. So let's not delay any further. I'm going to jump on into Bitcoin. And we got honked, folks. So I was looking for this cup and handle to play out here. We did see a rejection from this downtrend line. Came down, tested this bottom trend line here. Had a failed attempt at the middle Bollinger Band. Broke down below it. Bearishly retested. And then we saw this breakdown here. And that breakdown currently has us in this descending broadening wedge, which technically should be a bullish pattern. If we take a look here at our RSI, it is actually showing us some bullish divergence here, and it does technically point to the fact that it has retested a downtrend line on the RSI and is currently looking to try and gain some momentum. So you can see the confluence right at the cross of these two lines here. This downtrending line from the dip that we had, and then this hidden bullish divergence here where you see swing down to swing down on the RSI with this low point here and a higher point here, and swing down to swing down on the price action with a higher corresponding point in the price action and then a lower corresponding point in the price action to a higher corresponding point in the RSI. So that's on the 1 hour time frame for Bitcoin USDT, and we do have to heed that because it could indicate that this actually is a bottom on this move that was just made. So we'll have to watch this pattern for any type of a breakdown. Right now, overhead resistance is around 21,769. And a little higher above that, around 21,921. So those are important local levels for Bitcoin on the 1 hour. We've got the visual range volume profile showing us this point of control here up at 22,886. So before we get too excited, I think we have to negotiate a couple levels first here. 22,224 was a line in the sand that I had drawn, which it did break through on that down move. And above that, we have 22,381 and 22,614. So I think those three levels, if Bitcoin can break through that, more than likely we'll revisit the point of control. And if the point of control at that 22,881, let's call it 22,9, that's flipped into support, I think we have a chance to attempt to break out of this downsloping resistance that did create a denial the last time, a rejection. So, you know, sometimes you see false moves with Bitcoin. Sometimes it breaks out of these patterns but breaks back in. And I'm going to swing out to the 4-hour time frame. And there's no reason right now why we can't swing back up into this pattern here that we were in before, or why we can't look at this as just a wider megaphone. So if that is indeed a wider megaphone, we'll get a large bounce to the upside here towards $25,000. Because that's very symmetrical if this wick down is a bottom right there locally and we get a bounce back up. So right now, 22,389 and about 23,000 on the 4-hour are key levels. I apologize if you hear my boxer in the background there. So I do like the stochastics RSI on the 4-hour. I did say that the last time before we got the dump though, but we are moving back into a position of strength here. So we just want to see how the 4-hour negotiates with trying to move back up through these resistance levels. So I want to flip over to futures real quick and highlight something on the Bitcoin CME futures. If you look here, we are still looking at price action above this longer term downtrend resistance line that we did break out of and are probably going to retest somewhere around this area, which is in this CME gap that was created here that moves all the way down to about $20,000, 19,990 I think is the absolute bottom of that thing. So you can see here we're under the 200 daily moving average, and we did break down out of this rising wedge. So there's a few different ways to look at how to draw the potential pattern that Bitcoin is in right now, but you can see right here too in this time frame where this megaphone is at. So there's always more than one way to skin a cat when it comes to pattern trading, and not everything is right or wrong. Really, it's only right or wrong if it's making or losing you money, right? So this is the 8-hour time frame on the Bitcoin CME futures. We do have the stochastics RSI pinned here. It's pretty much flat between the blue and the red. The RSI is dipped barely into this oversold territory. Last time we revisited that was this wick down over here, excuse me, which was the end of this 5-wave correction that we had for Bitcoin. My screen will cooperate with me. So that was the big move there. And the last time that we did have this RSI oversold in this territory was the bottom of this move. So keep in mind, this is probably going to indicate another bottoming move shortly. It's just a question about where that's at. Do we hold this fib level, or do we dip a little bit further into this CME gap area, or even down to this area on the VRVP, which is around 19,190, which, you know, basically that 19.2 level. You can see over here, there's been a lot of touch points there. We spent a lot of time in this accumulation zone before the Sam Bankman-Snead dump, and you can see a couple touch points over here, excuse me, on this double bottom W pattern breakout that we did have up to 25K. So that's the Bitcoin CME futures. I'm going to jump over to Ethereum, where we do see a fairly similar picture. We did see a dump out of this shoulder, head and shoulder. It's an ugly pattern, so it was kind of hard to see at first, but hindsight's always 20/20. And I'm just going to demonstrate a couple things here in terms of just back testing, because it does actually help quite a bit excuse me, to back test your patterns. So when you see the market break up or down and you're like, oh, well, why did it do this or that? Go back and take a look and see if you can break down why it did it. And sometimes you can use that not only to back test, but to forward test as well. So you can teach yourself, hey, if I see this again, you know, potentially we can look for a move, either get out and wait or open up a short position, or, you know, close your long, whatever it is that you're doing at the time. So this is the 1 hour time frame for Ethereum US dollar tether on Binance. I'm just going to highlight this pattern here that played out, that created the dump. Once again, it's a really ugly shoulder, head and shoulder pattern. So you see this left shoulder here, and it's just chop, really choppy head as well, but there is a defined head there, and then this smaller right shoulder. And something to keep in mind with these patterns, when you do see this smaller right shoulder develop, that indicates a loss of strength and momentum, meaning that it couldn't even reach this previous point that left shoulder did, or where this previous consolidation had dropped you down before. So really just indicates weakness for the bulls. And what we saw here was we lost the point of control, which was around 1632. That coincided pretty well with the rejection off the middle Bollinger Band, and that created a pretty sharp slide down. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how we could have actually anticipated and measured this. So if you measure from the top of the head to the bottom of the formation of that shoulder in that diagonal pattern there, and you bring it over to the breakout line here, it's going to bring you all the way down to pretty much the middle of the chop of this range. So you're going to catch most of that measured move. Another way to do it, excuse me folks, I'm a little nasally here. I don't know if it's allergies or if there's like something going around, but I actually saw some of the other YouTubers sneezing online today, and I'm like, man, that's exactly what I'm doing. So bear with me here. But if you just draw that straight down as well and take that to that breakout point, it's going to give you a pretty similar measured move as well. So you would have been able to catch most of the length of it if you would have been able to do that. Once again, hindsight's 20/20. Just back testing, showing what actually happened here. This pattern that did play out, how it coincided with the support and resistance on the Bollinger Bands, and now we're here. So let's contend with where we're at right now. Back to the present. And we do have this sharp downtrend line that's been created, and we're actually testing that right now, which is pretty cool. So you can see the price action bumping up against this line that's been formed here from this touch point to this high point right here. So this is definitely something that we can look at, and I think we'll just see some more chop in this area where we've got this kind of a falling parallel channel. That channel corresponds pretty well with the middle Bollinger Band, and yeah, there's definitely some confluence with all the resistance up here. So, you know, with this wick, especially with this candle closing outside of the Bollinger Band, usually you're going to get a bounce at that point, and when you see a couple large candles close outside of that, it just means that you're making a really hard volume move, first of all. But it's also fairly manipulative because typically when you see a couple candles close outside of that, you're going to get a move back up. So there's different indicators that we can use other than the Bollinger Bands to give us an idea of where we're at as well. So I'm going to remove the bands right now. We're removing the bands, folks. We're removing the bands. And I'm going to bring up the EMAs here. And we're going to go with this 20, 50, 100, 200. Some people like to use the 21. But it's all pretty much the same. So we do have these EMAs. You can see that we're well underneath all of them. So this lowest band does correspond to the top of this channel here that we've created. So once again, confluence, and something that I'd like to highlight right now, which with Ethereum, it does move pretty much in tandem with Bitcoin to a greater or lesser degree. So there is a pretty strong hidden bullish divergence on this 1 hour time frame. So if you're looking for scalps or even for more of a swing position, it's totally possible here. And I'm gonna swing out and try to highlight what we might see on something like this if we do bounce out of it. Which, keep in mind, there is resistance above us. There's no reason why we can't come back up to like 1636 and then come all the way back down to where this 200 daily moving average is, like around 1442. So there's no reason why we can't get thrashed around like that, because there is a decent chance that we are in a Wyckoff distribution right now. So keep in mind, for fake out moves like that, it is totally possible. But if for any reason that was the extent of the dump, which, you can see the visual range volume profile once we swing out on the 4 hour. It wants to bring us all the way down to the 1200 area, around 1218. Keep in mind that is possible as well. I'm going to extrapolate out this downtrend line here that we did break out of. There's nothing saying all this stuff has to happen tonight or tomorrow, folks. It's because we did see that sharp move. Okay. It doesn't mean that we need to immediately see another one. We could see some consolidation, move back up, rejection, and then come back down, move back up, rejection, come back down in a nice 5-wave set. And then we can absolutely confirm the breakout and retest of this downtrend line, this long-term downtrend line. So this is an important spider line. This line runs all the way from the top, from around the 4800 area. So 4-hour stochastics RSI, it is pinned in this oversold territory. It is indicating that it's trying to turn back up here. So decent likelihood that we do come back up. And once again, at least try to figure out if we're going to see some sort of a bearish retest and rejection, or if we can create a new high and get back in the pattern here and maybe even break out of it. All that stuff is completely possible. So let's kind of get an idea of what might happen if that does happen. This isn't a super high probability right now. I'm just taking a measured move here. It would take us around 2191. So that's totally possible. Just other areas to highlight here. 1342, 1276, and then this point of control down here around 1219. So that is Ethereum right now. We do have a decent chance in the long term, or excuse me, in the short term, to break out of this downtrending channel which is really more of a short-term bullish pattern. And we'll see where we go from there. And I do see a retest of this POC. It's probably coming over the weekend, and we'll see if we get that rejection around 1630 to 1640 area for Ethereum. Dun, dun, dun. But we definitely did get honked. So things to keep in mind for where the market is at right now. XRP, kind of an interesting picture because it formed sort of a raggedy shoulder, head and shoulder here. And it looks like it may have bearishly retested that and broken down to that. Price action is below the 200 daily moving average on this 4-hour time frame. But we haven't seen a complete breakdown here, and we do have the RSI consolidating in this. It's not quite symmetrical, slightly descending triangle. Which, if you look at the action here, this is more of a falling broadening wedge, which typically is a bullish pattern. So we'll have to keep an eye on XRP. Nothing saying that we can't come up here, get rejected, come all the way back down to this point of control, which is just below 35 cents. Really kind of a harmonic pattern that's being created here. You know, it's very symmetrical, you know, dipped down, came back up, dipped down, sort of created this cup, which to me this looked like a cup and handle. And we did come back down and retest this level, you know, and there's nothing saying that it can't be a really ugly cup and handle at this point. And come all the way back down and test some of these levels even a little bit lower around this next volume node, which is like 35 cents, which is what I was mentioning before. So when we swing out a little bit further though, it's not wanting to do that on the VRVP. That's telling us that this may be a local bottom. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. That's an encouraging sign that XRP is giving us on the 4-hour. Let me swing over real quick. Swing back to Bitcoin. I do want to take a look at the daily closure. Okay, so Friday daily closure, a lot of the time we see all the volume come out of the market as the Wall Street boys are hitting the bars or the coke and hookers or whatever it is that they get into over the weekends. And you can see here in the RSI that we did actually have what looked to be a falling broadening wedge, but it did break down. And it also broke down from this long-term support that I drew from all the way back here, which was like right when we bottomed out. So right now, looks like the price action is consolidating just below that line and just below the 50 level on the RSI on the daily. And we do have a green candle coming in right now. And this daily momentum did close as a doji. So you've got pretty much even wick up and wick down, even candle body. And right now, we're trying to, potentially create a bullish engulfing candle. So I think anything above 21.8 is going to be pretty significant. And that's been a significant point. If we go back a little bit here, 21.8 was a range that we did battle. You can see here, banged off of it, rejected, banged off of it, another candle rejected, came a little closer, but not quite. Did have one breakthrough, slammed back down, tried to get back above it, rejected. Consolidation, came back up, rejected. Consolidation, came back up, rejected. Another daily candle down, another one bounced back up, rejected. So you can see there was a lot of time spent there. So 21.8 level, very important. We've seen that level come up time and again. So we're sitting just below that right now, trying to form a bullish engulfing candle. So I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that if we do close the next daily candle above, say, 21.8, 21.850, to form a nice bullish engulfing candle. And yeah, I think that would invalidate this breakdown. So that would be nice to see. That would indicate a lot of bullishness in the market because we didn't really break down that far on this Fibonacci retracement. But we do have to keep in mind we are still well above this 200 daily moving average. So revisiting that, you're talking, 1900, 775 area, depending on where that would play out to. Around that 0.5 Fibonacci, maybe just below 20,000, which that would correspond with the CME gap. So just try to look for confluence on charts. That's what makes more sense than anything. Right now, a massive breakdown back to this point of control on the daily, which is around 16,850. That seems unrealistic to me, but it's not impossible if we do break down of this downtrend spider line here. So that's definitely something to be cognizant of. If we did move down to the next Fibonacci level, I would like to see us hold either the 0.382 or the 0.5. It would be a bit of a ride down if we lost the 0.5 and the 200 daily. That would be a significant dump back into this area of the channel. And that would just be a lot of whipsaw price action. And with what we just saw, I believe this is a breakout and retest and the end of a long-term downtrend. So I would like to remain bullish. We'll have to continue to see how things play out on the lower time frames over the weekend and into early next week. We'll see what the weekly close looks like as well. Let's see if we can get an idea of how that might shape up right now. And if you look at where the weekly close is at, or where it might be, there is, this area of confluence up here that we did just drop down below, which is just above that 21.8 level. So, if we push back up on this weekly candle and close above that 21.8, I think that helps for right now. Just trying to build some kind of bullish case, folks. It is looking a little bearish. I'm not going to lie. but we're not gonna print a weekly candle like we did with the Bankman Sneed dump. So I can rule that out. Yeah, I would just like to see, retesting of this line, which we haven't quite done yet, which makes me think we're going to come back up, you know, test this area, make that resistance, and then finally come back down and, potentially around this 200 daily or the middle Bollinger Band as that curves up on this time frame. That's what I'd like to see. If we, it may take longer, folks. It may take longer. So, there's no reason why we can't come back down to the golden pocket and, meander up, come back down, meander all the way back down, like I was saying, with like a 5-wave set, and maybe even come all the way back down to this point of control, which is at 16.8. So that would be really nice for anybody that might have happened to short this top here. If that does play out, this weekly stochastics RSI momentum, the blue has flipped back under the red, so not necessarily a bullish sign there. RSI is creeping back down towards this 50 territory. We'll have to keep an eye on that as well. If the RSI dips below 50 on the weekly, that's definitely going to indicate some weakness in the market for Bitcoin. I want to jump back over to Matic, which I did have the 3L long token pulled up for KuCoin there, but I'm going to move back over to the Binance USDT chart on the 4-hour, and we can see that Matic has been in this sort of a rising wedge for quite a while here, in a pretty steady uptrend, and it did break down of this support here. So right now did get a quick retest and fell back out again after closing a couple candles below it. So right now it's attempting to bounce again, and really this price action doesn't necessarily look bearish to me. And if we take a look here, there is a little bit of cup and handle action there. Let me get rid of that one. We'll use a different one here. We'll use this curve. This will highlight it a little bit better for us because I can kind of turn it into what I want it to turn into. So you can see this curve here. It's a nice smiley face pattern, and then we dip down. Haven't broken below this area, so I would say as long as we're not closing a candle below those wicks there, which are around 117, 118 area, this does constitute a potential cup and handle, and right now it might be forming a double bottom there. So I'm gonna move into the 1-hour time frame, because that's where we've been confirming divergence so far on Bitcoin and Ethereum. And I'm going to remove these lines here on the RSI. And I will say right now, this 1-hour stochastics RSI very low, so that is a nice sign. Looks like we're getting a bounce off this point of control at $1.22 as well. So this is an interesting consolidation right now for Matic, because it's been very strong versus Bitcoin recently as well, which I am going to jump into and highlight here momentarily. But I do want to kind of extrapolate out what we might see here if this price action plays out the way I think it could. So I just kind of use my brush here, and I'm going to show you what might happen. So we've got kind of this possible W pattern And we've got a higher low there. So I think possibly we'll swing back up here. And, the real question is, hey, do we see a rejection at the top of this pattern, or do we get the measured move on this W pattern breakout, which if we extend that out, that's going to take the price up to about $1.43, and it would also take it above this rising wedge here, where maybe, potentially we test this line as support. So Matic looking very bullish, and keep in mind, fundamentally, right now, Matic is a very sound project. Obviously a top 10 coin, but not only, providing a speedy solution to Ethereum and a, solution to the high gas fees, but they do have the ZK rollups technology built in, which if you haven't researched the ZK rollups, folks, try to do a little bit of a dive into that in your free time. It's essentially a security protocol or layer that's built into some of these newer coins that does give you some versatility in terms of your anonymity and how you move your transactions around on these networks. So Matic right now could look a lot worse, folks. It could look a lot worse. So just keep in mind that resistance line right there. And it could sort of spend some time in this funky triangle type of a pattern. Matic likes to make some pretty sharp and dramatic triangle patterns. Adjust this line a little bit here. Not too bad, not too bad. So that's kind of what I'm looking at for Matic. We could see a much larger move above that, and I have highlighted some of those areas before, but right now that's kind of what I'm looking at. And what I do want to highlight as well, because we did see it on Bitcoin and Ethereum, and I'm going to zoom in so that it's a little easier to see here. When you're looking for hidden bullish divergence, you're looking for the candle closure, not for the wick down. So you can see here that we did see this swing wick down that corresponds with the RSI being lower here and higher here at this point. But what we did actually see here is a candle closure on this swing wick low on the RSI that was higher than this candle closure here. Just barely. Or even if it's break even, that's still what we would consider a bullish divergence. So there's different classes of bullish divergence. Matic doesn't often show bullish divergence on the RSI either. So keep in mind that is something that we want to keep an eye on for Matic, because it has been moving so bullishly lately. And what I want to highlight in terms of Matic's bullishness, we're going to take a look at the network versus Bitcoin. So it is consolidating right now on the 1 hour. It's been a nice range here in this sort of a parallel channel. And it's making a similar cup here as well. And this is more of like an emerging cup and a possible handle. So something to keep an eye on there as well. If for any reason this formation breaks down, there is a point of control down here just above 5,200 Satoshis. Right now, price action for Matic just below 5,700 at 56.91. And that does constitute a pretty nice move up over the last few days, as it was sitting at a swing low right around 41.60. So it did break out pretty nicely of this 200 daily moving average, bounced off this point of control and out of this triangle here. Remember what I said about Matic, it does like to make these sort of choppy, blocky triangles. So they do look a little different than some of the other assets that we might be used to looking at. You can see here that Matic did reach this measured move that I had pretty nicely up to this 5,900 area. Did have a little spike above that in this parallel channel here that we're contending with right now, just above 6,000. So what's really important here, I'm gonna swing all the way out to the 1 month candles. And this just looks beautiful to me, folks. This is what makes me really giddy about Matic right now. We're looking for this massive inverse head and shoulders pattern to play out first of all. Other things to highlight, this RSI is definitely in a position of strength well above the 50 level. We got the bounce off the 50 level back when we did hit the swing lows back from May into June of last year. So that looks great. And this stochastics RSI is bouncing off of this 50 level as well, with this blue line above the red line indicating that bullish momentum is picking up on the monthly here. And the price action indicates that as well, because what we're looking at right now is this price action is above any previous monthly candle closures. So as long as Matic maintains monthly price action above, say, 54.88, and it's probably, you know, just a little bit lower than that. We'll look here. The open was actually 54.38. So let's say 54.50. As long as Matic stays above 54.50, no, it's going to be a little higher than that because this one was a little higher than that one. So 54.63. Yeah, let's say 54.65. So as long as Matic stays above 54.65 in terms of its Satoshi value on the monthly close, which, you know, it's 18 days from now, so anything could happen, right? That's going to indicate extreme bullish momentum. But nothing's saying that it can't come back down a little bit lower than that and then continue some upwards momentum here. But that would create a fairly long wick. So I don't think we really want to see that. So we'll stick with that 54.65. And let's see if the price can stay above that. I believe right now, in terms of the Bitcoin value, that Matic is going to keep moving up this month. And it's going to test this line here again around this 5,900 to 6,000 area. And then we did have a couple wicks that came up here. Let's measure this a little more accurately so that we can see exactly where those are at. Those are right around 66.29. It says 66.06 and 66.51. So 66.51 is the area that we're really looking to break out of, along with this neckline on this head and shoulders pattern, this huge inverse head and shoulders. And what that's really going to constitute for Matic is a possibly huge move. You know, maybe even to the end of this year, where we could see Matic anywhere between about 2,300 and 2,700 Satoshis. So, very, very interesting pattern playing out for Matic. And if I swing out even further, we can see here that we've kind of had this action before, where we had this flat line there. A swing wick down, lower swing wick down. You can see here, swing wick down, lower swing wick down. And with this, we saw a sharp break up. With this here, we did see a nice break up, but we did also see a little bit of consolidation along the way. But that does play into how long it took to move through this area before. And Matic was also a younger asset, lower market cap, took less volume, or you know, less capital, I should say, to move it. So if we do see a repeat of that fractal, then we're looking for an absolutely massive move for Matic that could take it up to around 760,000 Satoshis. That move right now would constitute a potential almost 13,000% gain versus Bitcoin, which could go up another 2, 3, 4x. So possible that Matic makes an absolutely monstrous move that could completely blow people away and take them totally by surprise. Do not be surprised if this happens. Do not be surprised. This is possible in crypto. It's happened before. Matic has done it before. When it did it over the course of what? 5 months? So do not be surprised if this happens again, people. Do not be surprised. And I have this highlighted here on this chart. And if we're rejected here and we come all the way back down to this point of control, if this is just a huge BART pattern, which is totally possible. You know, I'm not saying this has to play out. Absolutely not. You know, this asset could be totally pumped, and this could just completely deflate and come back down to this area. But probabilities are that it doesn't, based on fundamentals, as I pointed out with ZK rollups technology, layer 1 solution fundamental technology, you know, helping with Ethereum. And what we're highlighting here on these indicators, with this bounce off the RSI at the midpoint at the 50 level, this nice consolidation that's occurring, with this nice consolidation that's occurring above an overhead resistance. The longer you see a consolidation under an overhead resistance, the more likely it is to break out of that overhead resistance. And that also corresponds with bouncing nicely off this 50 level with the stochastics RSI on this huge monthly time frame. What we're seeing here carries a lot of weight because we're on the monthly. We're on the monthly. So it's super important. So I'm just going to check something out here that could be interesting because I haven't looked at it yet. So we're going to look at it together. I'm going to swing out first to the 6-month candles. And really what this shows us here on these 6-month candles is that more than likely this is in favor of the bulls here to have a continuation to the upside because we have created this green candle. So that's bullish. That's bullish on the 6-month. And we're just going to zoom out to these 12-month candles. And right now, you know, what that shows, ooh, that's bullish. That's bullish. 12-month candles, that's bullish. This is a bullish engulfing candle that is developing on this newly printed 12-month candle for Matic. So that's massively huge, big, huge, massive, super-de-duper. Wow. That's awesome. So I don't know if any other channels have looked at this. I know that somebody was just recently looking at the 12-month candles on XRP, I think. So keep in mind these macro pictures can bring us a lot of clarity in terms of what we're actually seeing in the market, because this type of stuff has a lot of weight. So when I see this where we've formed a bullish engulfing already on the yearly, that's just fantastic, because early it just tells us that all of last year was consolidation for Matic, and there's a huge upside, which, you know, potentially is pretty much very similar to printing another candle like this as we move into the end of 2023, which is what that measured move showed us. So don't be surprised, folks. Don't be surprised if you're not holding Matic, if you don't have a little bit, if you're not even, you know, trying to trade it. It's a very tradable asset as well. Yeah, it's been a fun one to play with over the last several months, and it did bottom out early. That bottom, which was around 33 cents, I believe. And keep in mind, I'm still looking at the Bitcoin chart. But that bottom was back in June, July. So when you look at the strength of that, it really wasn't phased by the Sam Bankman-Fried fiasco. And, you know, I had read reports at the time, oh, you know, he's holding X amount of Polygon. And I did the math on it, and it really wasn't even that much money. Like, yeah, he had a nice bag, but it wasn't even enough to dump the price. If he dumped it all on the market at once, it wouldn't have done anything significant. You know, it might have, you know, moved it whatever, 0.5%, you know. It would have moved it down a little bit. You know, it was a nice bag, don't get me wrong. A lot more than I'm holding. But hello. Matic has definitely survived, and Ethereum has showed similar strength as well. So layer ones in particular, I think, have showed a lot of strength outside of Solana, which did suffer from that whole fiasco. So full disclosure, folks, with this last dump, I did get stopped out on my long for Solana. So I am potentially looking to re-enter on some scalp long position over the next few days as we see how this consolidation plays out, whether Bitcoin can dig itself back out of the hole that it's in, or if it's going to continue to trend lower down to this 200 daily moving average, which is around $19,723. I do think there is a decent probability of that, as we do still have that CME gap down there, but there's nothing saying that we have to revisit that right now. You know, we could stay well above the 200 daily, maintain bullish price action, move all the way up to $40,000 or $50,000, fill all the CME gaps up, and then come all the way back down to fill that one down around $20,000 with some sort of black swan event after everybody thought Bitcoin was going up, trap the liquidity up, come back down, get everybody thinking, oh, we're finally going to $10,000. I don't think that's going to happen. I'm just saying that right now. The probability of that is very low. Is it still possible from a technical and macro perspective? Sure. But there is a very low probability of that now, given Bitcoin's history and given the current price action and given a lot of other macro factors and probabilities that play into it, even despite the supposed economic conditions that we are facing right now. So just zooming in on the 7-minute time frame, just to give us a bit of an idea of what Bitcoin is facing in terms of local support and resistance. And this is the Coinbase chart. So some of these formations are going to vary a little bit. You can see the Coinbase chart is in a little bit more of a parallel downtrend channel. Or even if we connect that wick, because that was a little bit off. Bro. Bear with me, bro. Bro. Okay. So if we connect those wicks there, this really looks like more of a falling wedge, which is a bullishly biased pattern, which technically we have broken out of right now on this 7-minute time frame. So I'm going to swing out to the 15. The RSI is just above the 50 level. We've got this candle that did break out and retest. So this 15-minute candle is breakout and retest right now after building a little bit of strength above this middle Bollinger Band. Keep swinging out here. And I'm going to do a video at some point on how to use the different time frames. But for right now, I am just going to continue to swing out. And we'll move all the way out to the 4-hour and try to get a full picture. So momentum was building on the 15. We can see momentum building on the 30 as well, with the RSI just above the 50 level now. This nice green bullish engulfing candle building off this middle Bollinger Band, which brought the price action just above this downtrend line here in this falling wedge. This really is a textbook falling wedge, and we should see a breakout of this falling wedge. Usually the target of these patterns would be right back up at the top of the pattern, which is going to be right around the 22.1 to 22.2 area. I did highlight 22.3, I believe, as an area that we do want to be able to break out of. So may see some resistance there, as well as around these tweezer top swing wicks here, which are around 21.9. So that 21.8, 21.9 area, once again, we're going to be battling with that locally for the next few days. Would be nice to break out of that and leave that behind without having any sort of an extended interaction with it like we did before. I'm going to swing out to the 45-minute. A similar picture here, except we got the RSI just below the 50 level, so we're trying to gain momentum there. 75-minute candle building momentum above. You've got the middle Bollinger Band above that falling wedge. Stochastics RSI is in the overbought territory, showing strength. This RSI right here, you've got plenty of bullish divergence on that 75-minute time frame, and trying to build strength up to that 50 level. And let me swing back real quick to the hourly, because sometimes you get a little different view, but it's showing us pretty similar. Swing out to the 2-hour. This RSI has just moved above the oversold territory, so it is trying to gain strength there. Stochastics RSI is just moving into the overbought territory with that blue line on top, indicating that the momentum is to the upside. So the 2-hour looks strong. 3 hours building momentum. RSI is just barely peeking out of the oversold territory. And Stochastics RSI is trying to build momentum above that 50 level. And then as we swing out to the 4-hour, once again, Stochastics RSI is still oversold here. The blue has just moved into the neutral territory. We do want the red to get into that territory to confirm that we are going to be making a move in terms of the RSI right now. But there is divergence as well on the price action on the 4-hour. So we do need to heed that. That is moving with that Stochastics RSI, and that is hugely important for us right now in terms of where price action is at. So I do think that's going to show us a relief move. Where that move takes us exactly, that's going to be an entirely different story. So we do have some areas to highlight here. Areas of support and resistance that you can see are pretty significant. pretty obvious on the 4 hour. So 21.8, 21.845, 21.9, 21.925 ish, and then 22,000, 22,030 area. So important levels right now for Bitcoin. We do have a chance to move out of that. Do have a chance. I like this green candle. It's building on the 12 hour. My only issue is that we've got this volume node here and that we never made it back down to that. And anytime you zoom out, it's just bringing that volume range all the way back down to that 16.8 level, which is, you know, obviously not where we want to be. We do have this expanding Bollinger Bands though, which, you know, after we dumped all the way back down, it does give us the ability to potentially come all the way back up, you know, to create a new high. So that's what I'm looking at there. So that's the swing back and the swing out on Bitcoin. I think that's probably the big picture. XCH guide, the usual request for XCH. Let's take a quick look at that because it is one to keep an eye on right now. I'm not gonna lie. It was called a total shitcoin by people that will remain nameless, who have given my efforts and my newly budding channel a hard time already. My personal mentor has taken an interest in this coin, and he has stated that he does believe that it has some potential. So let's see how the dump hit Chia. So we did kind of break out of this pattern here, which I was looking at as a potential symmetrical triangle or continuation pattern. And what that's going to tempt me to do is sort of redraw what we're seeing here. And that lines up fairly well too. So I like this here because this is a bullishly biased pattern. It's more like a falling wedge type of a deal. So as we swing out on this 4 hour for Chia, we're seeing the same thing happen here, where we see the VRVP want to gravitate to this much lower node. I'm not sure we're going to get back down there, but we do have this 200 daily moving average, which is around $35, and this point of control, which is down around 30. So, you know, it's all looking like psychological levels for Chia right now. It's just above $40. Current price action is at about $40.64 on the KuCoin exchange. So this pattern actually looks pretty decent to me, and I'll revise some upside targets for Chia based on this pattern. I'm just going to move these down slightly because it is going to take a little more time to move out of this pattern. And it becomes a little more symmetrical to me, and it plays a little bit more with psychological price points. So this first target's just below $60. There's sort of a midpoint there where I drew this measured move up before. Let me remove that. So potentially about 59 to 76. So I would say, 60 to 75 range-ish. If Chia does break out of this falling wedge. If Bitcoin doesn't want to cooperate and the market takes more of a tumble, we have to look at these other levels, $35 and $30 for Chia. I do think that this coin has potential to make it into price discovery mode. So, when we zoom out here, this is like a 5-day time frame. We saw this consolidation in sort of a falling broadening wedge, which we have had a breakout of. Now we're in another falling wedge, trying to create more momentum to the upside and, potentially actually get up to some of these levels back up above 100. So the high for Chia on KuCoin I think was around $300. I want to say the all-time high for this thing was like $1,600. I don't know if that was like on Uniswap or where it was trading for that much. I don't know who would pay that much. I'm not trying to belittle the coin, but that's quite an inflated price. So with that in mind, shorter term, I would look around this golden pocket if there's, a lot of momentum above this $120 to $125 level, where, you may see a consolidation just below that and a nice spring above that. If you're looking at, breaking out of this all-time high area on KuCoin, anything above $300, you could start to see a lot of momentum pick up for this coin. So, right now with the price just above $40, it does represent a potential, what we got here, about 3x in the short term. If this does play out, it could do a lot more though. There's no saying that it couldn't. I do think this is a decent coin, and I will look into the fundamentals of this coin more in the future, because I believe it is pretty good from what I was hearing from certain sources. So that is Chia. Any questions, comments, gripes, concerns, repeats, honks, or otherwise noted statements in the chat from anyone? Everybody doing good? Hope y'all had a chance to eat dinner and hang out with your family and all that. Dan Falconberry wants to run Gala. Yeah, I should have a Gala chart. Dan, let's take a look at Gala. I know, Dan, you're probably looking to trade this coin right now. Alright, so you're looking to see if there's more upside in the near term or where we're at with Gala. So keep in mind, Gala's doing a similar two-step with the rest of the market. And what it did over the course of the dump here was form a very bullish pattern. And it's a very large falling wedge. And I mean, it's a beautiful pattern. It's textbook falling wedge. It was just a question of, hey, when is this thing really going to actually, find its bottom? And it did fall out of that wedge briefly, created a nice sort of a V shape and bounced right back into that pattern and just blasted above it. So unfortunately, we saw some chop and a bit of a downturn for the market here. So, no exception for Gala. There was definitely some volatility in that chop zone. Did break down to that rising wedge. And right now there's a little bit of consolidation occurring on just below the lower Bollinger Band and just above the 200 daily moving average at just above 4 cents. So 4050. That's going to be a fairly significant level of support. So keep in mind that 0.0405 level. Interestingly enough, when we're out here on this daily time frame, something that's a little bit different for Gala is that we do see the majority of the volume is actually above the current price. So that in itself is bullish because the price action is going to want to gravitate towards this volume node. Okay? So something else that I've seen with Gala over the last few weeks, it seems that it has front run some of the moves. So I'd keep an eye on Gala for sure, because it could be like one of the first coins that breaks back out of the current dip and potential consolidation that we might form over the weekend. So I think there's a decent chance that Bitcoin moves sideways over the weekend and we see if we get a larger rejection or bearish retest, or if we're going to continue to move up and if this was a fake out downwards just to get people panicking, which is totally possible. And I'll highlight why right now. When we take a look at how the daily closed here for Gala. So it did get a little bit of a candle body closure below on the previous daily candle, and then we have right now this hammer candle that's kind of forming. But we do have these wicks here, and really that's telling us that the selling is dropping off for right now. But what we need to confirm is getting price action up above this level here where this larger candle closed and where this smaller hammer candle opened. So we're looking at around 44.53, which is about a 10% move up from where we're at right now, right? No, sorry. It's about a 10% move up from the point of control that I was highlighting before. Or no. From the daily moving average. So the Gala price action really isn't that far from making a move. So let's swing in a little bit and see if we can get an idea whether it might actually make that move or not. And the stochastics RSI has actually moved into the neutral territory and is trying to gain bullish momentum on the 4-hour, but we haven't seen a significant move in the price action yet. So we're seeing some similar hammer candles here on the 4-hour that we were on the daily, which is indicating some consolidation and also a little bit of exhaustion by the sellers. We did see a few candles here that did close below that lower Bollinger Band as we tumbled down. And, once again, I have to highlight this point of control, which is well above the price action right now. And that's at about 4.9 cents. So I think there's definitely a relief scalp in order for Gala. There's also a potential bearish retest in play. So if we extrapolate this channel out that the price action broke down from, you can see broke out of it, perfect bearish retest, came back up, tried to get back in, candle bodies closed below, and boom, came back down. So that's like textbook You know, it's a perfect area to enter a short. I don't know what I was doing when that happened. I must have had my head completely buried because I really didn't pick up on when that dump was actually happening. And you can see here, this was where the previous measured move was from. And when we take that perfectly to that point, it comes perfectly down to this 200 daily moving average. So it's possible that Gala continues to consolidate for a little while longer. And, you know, maybe Bitcoin comes back down to double bottom again at like 21.4. And Gala gets another little spit down to like this, you know, 4032 level, which is right where this 200 daily moving average is at. So nothing saying that can't happen on... Really what you want to see is the price action come back into this pattern, and that would require a pretty sharp V move up above about 61.92. So not a super high probability of that playing out in my mind, just from what I'm looking at right now, but obviously anything can happen. We do have to keep an eye on that 4 hour. The 1 hour kind of looks like it's losing strength with this waning stochastics RSI and flat price action. But we do kind of have a little bit of bullish divergence with this RSI. It's a little bit of a different class of bullish divergence. So we do have that point there. Where we have flat price action and rising RSI, excuse me. So this isn't all that great of a look on the 1 hour, but we do still have this point of control up here, which on the 1 hour it's at like 55.98. So this is all chopped back in here. If you're not able to close above that like 61.43 level that I was looking at before. So if we swing in a little bit, because I know you're looking for some scalp opportunities here. This 15 minute is just flat as a pancake. This really could go either way. So I'll show you a little trick here, and you can't do this with all the assets. But Gala does have this .3L token. It's really going to do this to me right now, isn't it? They changed the way this was formatted. It's kind of annoying. Let me just try 3L here. Of course not. Are you really going to do this to me? Give me just a sec here. I'll find it. Of course, I forgot that they put the X in there, which really for no reason. There it is. So this is the 3X long token on KuCoin. I don't know if you played with these or not, Dan. It's a safer form of leverage. It's like a leveraged ETF. So you can see the same flat price action on where you got this consolidation, and this, it's basically a symmetrical triangle. Typically when you see a symmetrical come after a down move. It's going to create another down move. Okay, so that could totally happen there. But what we really want to do is juxtapose this 3L with the 3S token. So if we take a look at the 3S, right now the 3S is in a bit of a BART, but it's also in a symmetrical triangle at the top of this formation here. So typically, once again, these symmetrical triangles are continuation patterns. So, you know, if we get another move to the short side and you play this leveraged ETF, we're looking at 115% potential gains. If we do get another swing down out of Gala. But, you know, when we swing out here on this 15-minute, the point of control for these shorts is down here, saying that this BART is going to play down to the downside and that the longs are going to play. So you got to watch the pattern and see which way it breaks. But you've got a couple different assets that you can look at there. So if you're using your KuCoin, search Gala X, and you can use that 3x leveraged ETF, and it's a little safer than jumping in to the fully leveraged futures positions. You got this point of control so close on the 15-minute on the long. It does make me think that it's going to bounce back to the upside. Let me see what the 4-hour looks like. Yeah, stochastics RSI and RSI are indicating that the 4-hour is going to bounce here on this thing. So, you know, there's nothing saying that it doesn't just come back up and bearishly retest as well. So, you know, you could see it come back up to this 10,000 area or whatever, and that'd be a significantly nice move for Gala off of this leveraged ETF, even if it doesn't break all the way back out and we can continue to see consolidation or whatever. But, you know, if this does play to the upside, sure you'll see something similar to what the other one offered, and that would actually take us above the 200 daily moving average, which on this 4-hour time frame we should be gravitating towards that. So it would make more sense to me if we made the move up, and this really is kind of a falling wedge that's forming here. So I'm going to lean my bias towards we bounce here for Gala on this 3x long token. So I'm 68.32 biased along off the bottom of this pattern. So, you know, if you're looking to enter this thing from the bottom of this pattern, and keep in mind, folks, this is not financial advice. Nothing that I say or do on this channel is financial advice. Please get yourself a financial advisor and do your own due diligence before getting into any investment, trade, or coin. Yeah, I would look for this to have more likelihood to bounce than to dip from what I'm seeing on the indicators here. Looks pretty solid for Gala. And that right there. Woo. That says it's a big move. That says it's a big move on the 4 hour, folks. My goodness. Is that real? 2,000% gains? 2,000% gains possible out of Gala, out of this falling wedge on the 3x long token. 2,000%. Yo. Is that real? So I would swing the stop out to about 10%. Which is pretty close to the swing low of this little consolidation pattern that we're in at the bottom of this falling wedge. So I would heed this as a bullishly biased pattern for the longs for Gala. It's a nice indicator for the rest of the market as well. I'm going to swing out here. Keep in mind, none of this has to play out. We could consolidate. We could break down in this pattern. You know, there could be several more waves to the downside, or this all could just be a fake out. Because this seems more a likely zone of support to me. Because it's basically just above where this breakout was. You've got this volume node here. Nothing says that we have to go anywhere, but there is always a good chance that you're going to gravitate towards this 200 daily moving average. So it's been quite a while since the longs have even touched that on this asset. And this thing just made a massive, like, short squeeze move before. So that in itself is pretty symmetrical. So if that were ever to break out, you would see that ETF just absolutely go ape. So there's something to be said for trying to find a bottom on this ETF and just, you know, throw 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 bucks at a time at it and just continue to try and accumulate a position. If it keeps dipping, just keep buying it, you know, just a little bit at a time so that it's not a huge risk. But if you end up with a few $100 in there and then all of a sudden it just goes absolutely bananas, you know, you're looking at potentially life-changing money. And keep in mind with holding these ETFs, there is a long-term risk because they do rebalance from time to time. So if you're significantly down on your position, they may rebalance some of your money right out of your wallet. I did have that happen to me a couple times. Nothing significant, mind you, but they do that. So they'll send you an email letting you know that they're going to be updating these 3L and 3S tokens. So I think the thing we have to heed is, does the price action come all the way back down here to test the bottom of this triangle, double bottom before it can work its way back up to the top and potentially break out. But there is this 200 daily moving average, so there is a chance that we gravitate towards that right now with another trending move out of this falling wedge. So I'll swing back to the regular pair. Yeah, it's not bad looking price action for Gala. This is an asset that if you're gonna look to pick one coin, this is definitely one that you might want to mess around with on either trying to scalp off these swings, which obviously we saw a real nice swing here from about 1.5 cents all the way up to just over 6 cents. So just over a 4x move for Gala there in relief, which really that didn't even move us up to the 0.382, and right now this 200 daily moving average is in perfect confluence with the 0.236 fib. So don't get confused when I'm referring to the 200 daily moving average on the Gala USDT asset versus the 200 daily moving average on the ETF. It's going to be completely different, and they're going to move differently. There's going to be different patterns. So just keep in mind it is an alternative to trading the leverage. It's a little less risk, and there's definitely still some huge upside, even just in a short-term swing. So yeah, that's Gala. Potentially look around this 4 cents area if it does happen to dip just a little bit more, because there is really strong support there with the 0.236 fib and the 200 daily. So point of control on the 12 hour is all the way down at just above 2.5 cents. It's another psychological level to look for. And as I zoom out on the 12 hour, that point of control moves up. And I think, we had highlighted that before. When I swing all the way out, and it's the same on the daily as well, the point of control is actually above the current price action. So that's bullish. That really does indicate bullishness to me. And, you've got this flag that's forming on the RSI, this downtrend flag, which, typically this would be a bullish flag. Maybe it's forming a little bit more of a megaphone or something of that nature. Or a broadening wedge. You can try to, play around with these patterns. And you want to try and leave these flags open so that you can allow the price to move within them. And you'll get a better idea over time of where to start them. And then a lot of the time you'll see, over time you'll draw a flag and you'll come back and you're like, oh, well, this played out perfectly within the flag. Keep in mind that presents opportunities for making trades. You just want to continually try and draw this stuff, back test it as much as you can. Even on smaller time frames, it all applies. It doesn't matter if it's the 12 hour or the 12 minute. In fact, we can drill down onto the 12 minute right now. And we'll see what kind of a pattern is playing out there for Gala. And this actually has a little bit of a bullish bias when we zero in on it. You know, it's just slightly rising on the top, but we can call that flat for all intents and purposes. In terms of that price action, that's flat, and this really creates a bit of, you know, what you would say is an ascending triangle. And typically an ascending triangle represents a bullishly biased pattern, because you're creating these higher lows while bumping along this line and trying to break through this line as resistance, as opposed to creating the weakness on the lower part, where you would see, you know, a descending triangle if the price action was coming down and this part was flat. This part would be more likely to break, because this would be the part that you were, you know, beating on. So you can see that we have more touches, 4 touches already on this part, as opposed to 2 full touches on the bottom. So that is bullish, because typically a 5th touch you're going to break through. A little bit of a sore neck here, folks, sorry. So if we take a measured move on this, I think this is a super likely scenario here. And when I say super likely, you know, once again, like 68-32 probability. You can see the measured move on that. Let's swing this back just a little bit. It's perfectly in confluence with where we started to see this chop here before in this support zone. So like 4.785 cents for Gala on the scalp. So a little less than a 10% move there. A little less than 10%. If you're using leverage, obviously you can bump that up. Alright, so Dan says his TA lines up, so that's good. Alright, so hopefully that helps things play out for you on your trading with Gala, Dan. That was a little bit of a deep dive on the TA on that one. So just keep in mind, as you scroll through these time frames, you can get different areas of confluence. I found using the 3-minute, the 6-minute, the 12-minute, the 24-minute, the 48-minute, and the 96-minute play very well with the 4-hour and the daily. So keep in mind, those time frames do have a mathematical relationship, and you can work the 12-hour in there as well. But you got 24 hours in a day. So if you break that down to a 24-minute time frame, you're looking at some candles and some areas of support, resistance, and confluence that people might not necessarily be looking at because they're on other time frames. Then you can break that down even further, bring your focus in even more on that 3-minute and 6-minute. So I did explain this to one of the people in one of the groups that I'm in before, but really when you're looking at price action on these large and small time frames, I'm swinging out to the 8-day here, which doesn't necessarily look all that great because the stochastics RSI momentum actually has the blue below the red, so that's something to keep an eye on. price action is basically like a mountain range. So if you look at the full history of price action on something, it's like, taking a fully zoomed out view as you're, driving up to or approaching a mountain range. Think of yourself as a pioneer, right? You're approaching a mountain range. Well, let's say that you're looking at, a specific peak or valley that you want to get to. You're going to zoom in on that. And there's that valley and there's that peak on the daily. Well, maybe you're looking at, a specific, area that is going to get more sun than another. So you might want to zoom in even a little bit more on that. And as you continue to zoom in, you can potentially find yourself a home on that mountain range. And you can say, oh, well, it did this here, it did this here. Maybe I want to go here, and it's going to do that again. So you can tell yourself, hey, I'll look for a really specific plot of land, and if I don't see that plot of land, then I'm not buying. But if I see that plot of land for the price that I'm looking for, then I'll jump on in. So you can bounce through these time frames, see which ones work better for you. I just started playing around with those ones that I just highlighted not too long ago. So, all based off of 24 hours and 24 minutes, 24 hours being the daily. Other ones that work really well together are the 15, the 30, the 1 hour, and the 4 hour. Mostly the 15, the 1, and the 4 hour. And then if you want to drill down more, you can use the 5 minute or the 3 minute. Those work really well with the daily as well. So the daily is going to give you more of that perspective, the larger perspective. Is it really more of a, an uptrend or a downtrend on the more of the macro? And then you can zoom in to try and get your really more accurate entries. And it's sort of up to you what indicator you want to use to zero in on your entries. I do like the Bollinger Bands. I don't use the MAs all that much to trade. I like to just catch a large wick off the bottom Bollinger Band. And if I don't catch the wick, you can always look for the retest of the middle band for a long up from there as well. I don't look for shorts that much. I'm just not into shorting the market that much. And to be completely honest, I think this is a really dangerous point to be shorting the market. So if you are shorting the market, get in and get out, make it a day trade. I wouldn't look to make it a swing trade right now because there's nothing saying that we won't reverse from here back up to $25,000 for Bitcoin. So I think that's about it. I think that's about all I got tonight. Oh wow, that ran a lot longer than I thought it did. Okay, folks, I'm gonna jump. I'll get honking on out of here. This has been Crypto Clown World. Please, folks, if you didn't on the way in, make sure you jump out of the chat and smash the like button for me. It does help push the algorithm. Leave me a comment, whether it's positive or negative, anything that you saw here. If you haven't already, make sure that you do subscribe to this channel. Hit the bell for notifications if you haven't, so that YouTube will notify you of upcoming streams and uploads that I will be putting together in the future. Thanks, everybody. I'm your host with the honks, Jason Bruce. Have yourself a fantastic honking weekend. This is Crypto Clown World. Take care, everybody.